Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations with Jesus. Okay, so today is different. If you've been watching this podcast, you know it's usually just me and Jesus. That's our thing. But today we have a guest, and I'm kind of nervous actually, because this isn't just any guest. This is someone whose story I've read in the Bible 100 times, and every time it makes me cry. Every single time.
Should I introduce her?
Please.
This is someone very close to my heart. She was there when most of my disciples ran. She was there at the cross. She was the first person I chose to see after I rose from the dead. Not Peter, not John, her. Everyone, this is Mary. Some of you know her as Mary Magdalene.
Hello, everyone.
Mary, thank you for being here. I have so many questions, but first, how are you feeling right now?
Honestly, I'm feeling grateful. It's been a long time since I've told my story, and I think people need to hear it. Not because my story is special, but because it's everyone's story. Everyone has a chapter they don't want to read out loud.
That's exactly why I wanted you here, because I think a lot of people listening right now have a chapter like that, a past they're ashamed of, something they did or something that was done to them, and they think it disqualifies them from God's love. So, can we start there? Can we start with the chapter nobody talks about?
Let's start there. Most people know one thing about me. They know I was broken. The Bible says Jesus cast 7 demons out of me. Luke chapter 8, verse 2. And that's true. But people hear 7 demons and they imagine something from a horror movie. Screaming, shaking, losing control.
Was it like that?
Some of it, but mostly, it was quieter than that. Demons don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they sound like your own thoughts. You're worthless. Nobody could love you. You deserve what happened to you. You'll never be clean. Those were my 7 demons. Self-hatred, shame, fear, guilt, loneliness, despair, and the belief that I was beyond saving.
That sounds familiar. Not the demon part, but the thoughts. I've had those exact thoughts.
Everyone has. That's what I want people to understand. You don't need to be possessed to be tormented. You just need to believe the lies long enough.
What was your life like before Jesus?
I was invisible. Or worse, I was visible for all the wrong reasons. In my town, I was the one people crossed the street to avoid. Mothers pulled their children closer when I walked by. I heard the whispers. I knew what they called me. And after a while, I started calling myself those things too. When the world tells you who you are long enough, you start to believe it.
Can I say something here?
Of course.
The world is very good at naming people. They named Mary before they knew her. They named her by her worst moments, her darkest days, her most visible sins. But I want to be clear about something. The world doesn't have naming rights over you. Only I do. And I never called her what they called her. I called her daughter.
He did. The first time he said it, I didn't believe him. I actually laughed. Not a happy laugh. A you must have the wrong person laugh.
What happened when you met him? Like the actual moment?
I didn't meet him in a church. I didn't meet him at a prayer meeting. I met him on the worst day of my life. I was at the end, completely at the end. I had nowhere to go, nobody to call, nothing left. And he just appeared. Not with a sermon, not with a lecture, not with a list of everything I'd done wrong. He just looked at me, and his eyes didn't have judgment in them. That was the first thing I noticed. Everyone else's eyes had judgment. His had recognition. Like he knew me. Not the me that everyone else saw. The real me. The one underneath all the mess.
And then he cast out the demons.
Not immediately. First, he sat with me. He just sat with me. And he didn't say, stop crying. He didn't say, you need to clean up your life. He sat there until I was ready. And when I was ready, he asked me one question.
What was the question?
Do you want to be free? Not, do you deserve to be free? Not, have you earned freedom? Just, do you want it? And I said yes. And that was it. One word, yes. And everything changed. Not because I was strong enough, but because he was.
One word.
Freedom doesn't require a resume. It requires a yes.
Mary, can I ask you something that might be uncomfortable?
This whole conversation is uncomfortable in the best way. Go ahead.
After Jesus freed you, Did the reputation go away? Like, did people stop seeing you as who you were before?
No, they didn't. And that was one of the hardest parts. Because I was free on the inside. I knew who I was now. I knew I was different. But the world hadn't gotten the memo. People still whispered. Even some of Jesus' followers looked at me sideways. Why is she here? Does she belong with us? She's not like us.
That makes me so angry.
It made me angry too. For a long time. I wanted to scream, I'm different now. Can't you see? But that's the thing about transformation. It's invisible to people who only see your past.
How did you deal with it?
I almost left. More than once. I thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe my past is too heavy to carry into this new life. And one night, I remember this so clearly. I was packing my things. I was going to leave, go back to my old town, just disappear.
What stopped you?
He did. He knocked on my door at night, and he said something I'll never forget.
I remember. I said, I didn't free you so you could go back to the prison. Their opinions are not your address. You live in me now.
Their opinions are not your address. I say that to myself every single day.
Okay, I need everyone listening to write that down. Their opinions are not your address. That might be the most powerful thing I've ever heard on this podcast. But Mary, practically, how do you wake up every day and face people who only see your past?
You stop performing for them. That's the secret. When I was trying to prove I'd changed, I was exhausted. I was performing holiness. Look at me pray. Look at me serve. Look at me be good. And Jesus pulled me aside and said,
I said, Mary, you don't need to prove to them what I already know about you. Stop auditioning for people who aren't your casting director. I already cast you. The role is yours.
And I stopped trying. I stopped trying to make people see me differently. I just focused on knowing him. And slowly, the people who mattered started to see the real me. And the people who didn't? I learned to bless them and keep walking.
I think a lot of people listening right now are performing their faith, performing their healing, performing their I'm fine, and they're exhausted.
Then I want to tell them what took me years to learn. You don't owe anyone a performance of your transformation. Your healing is between you and God. Everyone else gets to witness it, but they don't get to grade it.
Mary, I want to ask about the cross, because that's the part of your story that wrecks me. When Jesus was crucified, most of the disciples, his inner circle, the 12, they ran. They hid. Peter denied even knowing him, but you stayed. You were there at the foot of the cross. Why? Because he stayed for me.
When I was at my lowest, when everyone else left, when the world called me names, when I wanted to disappear, he stayed. He didn't run from my mess. He didn't look away from my shame. He sat with me in the darkest moment of my life and said, I'm not going anywhere. So when his darkest moment came, how could I leave? I couldn't. My feet wouldn't move. I stayed because leaving wasn't an option. Not after what he did for me.
I'm crying.
I know. I cry every time I tell this part too.
What was it like being there?
It was the worst thing I've ever witnessed. Worse than my own suffering. Because this time, it wasn't happening to me. It was happening to the person who saved me. The person who looked at me and saw something worth saving. And I couldn't do anything. I just stood there. And I watched, and I prayed, and I held his mother's hand. And I promised myself that if he could endure that for me, I would never walk away from him. Not ever.
And then 3 days later?
And then 3 days later, I went to the tomb. It was early, before sunrise. I went to anoint his body. That's all I thought I was doing, saying goodbye. Taking care of him one last time the way he had taken care of me. But the stone was rolled away, and the tomb was empty.
You were the first one there.
I was the first one there, and I was terrified. I thought someone had taken his body. I was crying, really crying, not the quiet kind. And then I heard a voice behind me, and the voice said one word.
Mary.
Just my name. That's all he said. Just Mary. And I knew that voice. It was the same voice that asked me, do you want to be free? The same voice that said, their opinions are not your address. The same voice, and he was alive. And in that moment, I understood something I'd never understood before.
What?
That the God who conquered death chose me as the first person to tell about it. Not a priest, not a king, not one of the 12, a woman that the world had thrown away. He chose me, and I realized my past wasn't a disqualification. It was a qualification, because who better to announce that death is defeated than someone who had already been brought back to life?
I don't have words.
You don't need them. She said it perfectly.
Mary, we have a lot of people watching this who are right now where you were before Jesus found you. They're in the shame. They're in the nobody could love me. They're in the chapter they don't want anyone to read. If you could sit with them right now, one-on-one, what would you tell them?
I would tell them 3 things. First, your worst chapter is not your whole story. I know it feels like it. I know it feels like that one thing you did, or that one thing that happened to you, defines everything. It doesn't. It's one chapter. And the author isn't finished writing. He has so many pages left for you. Beautiful ones. Pages you can't imagine right now because you're stuck rereading the ugly ones. Second, stop waiting to be good enough before you come to God. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't clean. I wasn't presentable. I came to Jesus covered in dust and shame and 7 demons. And he didn't say, come back when you're better. He said, come as you are. Right now, this second. Don't clean up first. That's his job, not yours. And third, the people who judge you for your past are not your audience. Stop performing for them. Your only audience is the God who knows every single thing you've ever done and still says, I choose you. I love you. You're mine. If he's not ashamed of you, why are you ashamed of yourself?
Jesus, is there anything you want to add?
Just one thing. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. All things. Not some things. Not most things. All things. The past Mary described? Passed away. The shame? Passed away. The labels the world gave her? Passed away. She is new. And so are you. The moment you say yes to me, the old version of you dies. And the new one doesn't have to carry the old one's luggage.
The old version doesn't have to carry the old one's luggage.
Put it down. Whatever you're carrying from your past, put it down. It's not yours anymore. I already paid for it. You're walking around carrying a debt that's already been settled. Put it down.
Before we close, I want to give you 2 a moment, because I can see there's something between you that goes deeper than what we've talked about. Mary, is there something you want to say to Jesus? Something you've been wanting to say?
I've wanted to say this for a long time. Thank you, not just for freeing me, not just for defending me, not just for choosing me that morning at the tomb. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Thank you for hearing me when I was silent. Thank you for staying when everyone left. And thank you for never, not once, reminding me of who I used to be. You only ever called me by who I was becoming.
Mary,
Yes?
you were never who they said you were. You were always who I said you were. And who I said you were is loved. From the very beginning. Before the demons. Before the shame. Before the whispers. You were loved. You just didn't know it yet.
I know it now.
That's all that matters.
Okay, I need a minute. That was something else. Mary, thank you. Genuinely, thank you for coming. Thank you for being brave enough to tell your story. I know it wasn't easy.
It gets easier every time, because every time I tell it, I watch someone in the audience realize that their story isn't over either, and that makes it worth it.
If this episode spoke to you, leave a comment. Tell us what part hit you the hardest. And if you know someone who's carrying shame right now, someone who thinks their past disqualifies them, send them this episode. You might be the person who changes everything for them. If you missed the first 3 episodes, go back and start from episode 1 and check out Prayer and Bossa, our sister channel, for peaceful Christian bossa nova, link in the description. Subscribe and hit the bell. Next episode, I don't know who our guest will be yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be someone unexpected.
I have some ideas.
Trust him. His ideas are always better than yours.
She's right, they really are.